Hello, and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can really help the show reach more loss and infertility families by taking a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Check us out on Patreon for exclusive bonus content. Just go to patreon.com/Finding Hope After Loss. You can also check out more information about the episode in the show notes at journeyforjasmine.com. Today I am talking with Caitlin. She is the mother of 3 living sons and 2 daughters who were both stillborn 8 years apart due to the same condition, Turner syndrome. In this episode, she discusses the uncaring treatment she received from her doctors after both losses and how she started a business to help other women who have experienced pregnancy and infant loss. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Caitlin. Caitlin, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, I can. Thanks for having me. I'm a registered nurse. I have been for about 13 years now. I have 3 kids, all boys. They're 10, 8, and 4. I have 4 dogs. They are all boxers.
I love boxers.
Yeah, me too. We do too. We have our male and our female, and then they had puppies together, and then we kept 2 of the puppies. So we have a whole family.
Yeah, definitely have a busy household.
Yeah, it is. So my boys are very active. We just finished up with baseball, and that was my life for about 2 months. I do have a full-time job. I work as a RN health coach for an insurance company. So I do that remotely. And I'm married. So I have a husband, and we live on 13 acres, and it's kind of a more rural area. So we don't have close neighbors. So it's nice, full of nature, and, my kids love it. And so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. What state are you in?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. I've never had a chance to really go up there, but from pictures I've seen, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So there are some beautiful places for sure.
Yeah, I guess there's always non-beautiful places too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So do you mind sharing a little more about your journey?
Sure. I had 2 stillbirths back into 2013. I was my first pregnancy. I was pregnant with a little girl. At our anatomy scan, they discovered she didn't have a heartbeat. We didn't know there was anything wrong before that, so it was a really big shock. And so that was really hard to navigate. It took me a long time to really fully process that. So whenever we were in the hospital and delivering that baby, we were in there for a lot longer than we should have been. It was about 3 days, and the turns out the doctor wasn't giving me enough medication to really induce labor. So it was just kind of like dragging on and on and on. And then maternal fetal medicine came on duty and sped things up. He's like, you're not getting near enough of the dose of the medication that you need, because you're not full term. So it's going to take a lot more medication to induce labor. So anyway, we got that done, and it really put me in a dark place. And I mean, I had suicidal thoughts. I didn't have very good support. I went to my provider for help at, my OBGYN's office, and was just kind of shooed away and brushed off as, oh, you're just grieving. You just need to give yourself time to grieve. And so I really didn't have anybody in my corner to help me. And it was really, really tough. And it was really a loss that I didn't know that I could ever experience and feel. It was like such a deep, like penetrating heartache. And it really kind of affected every pregnancy then thereafter. And I really suffer from postpartum depression. I did have 3 healthy boys after that, and they're awesome. They're big blessings, and I couldn't live without them. But then I had gotten pregnant again. So this would be my fifth pregnancy, and it was a girl again. And of course, we did all the genetic testing and stuff, because after my first pregnancy, I made sure to do all of that then with every pregnancy thereafter. And turns out she also had Turner syndrome, and she had the same features, you know, severe heart defect, filling up with fluid, cystic hygroma in the back of her neck. You know, I knew I was prepared for, for what was about to come. I knew I was just going to kind of really wait for her to pass in the womb. And, I tried to hold out hope for her, but we did, everything that we could. We went to all of our doctor's appointments. We saw a bunch of specialists. I even had a pediatric cardiologist suggest that we go to a children's hospital that specializes. They have like a Turner syndrome program, and they were going to possibly evaluate for an intrauterine surgery to operate on her heart to fix her heart defect. But unfortunately, we never made it to the children's hospital because her heart stopped beating. It was right before Christmas. And so we went to the doctors for an appointment to figure out what the next steps would be. And the doctor that I saw at that time, so where I go, it's like a women's health clinic, but you don't have like one specific provider. You just see whoever. And so this was the first time that I was seeing this doctor. And like I said, it was right before Christmas, and she was very cold and sensitive about the whole thing. She just kind of acted like we were a big inconvenience. It was close to Christmas, and like, how dare I come in to, you know, give birth to a deceased baby when it's, so close to the holidays. And so she's like, well, we're gonna have to do a C-section, and I don't think it's even gonna have to be, or I don't think it's gonna be before Christmas. You're probably have to wait till after Christmas, because our providers are on vacation. And just kind of was real cold about it. And I'm like, you cannot be serious. Like, that's like a whole nother like 5 days that you're are expecting me to carry this baby. And
Yeah, that is awful.
I know, I couldn't believe it. But thankfully, I had already been in touch with a palliative perinatal nurse. And so I had called her and I said, this is what's going on. And she said, oh my goodness. She's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, but that is completely inappropriate. She's like, I'm going to call my medical director and see if we can, have you come up to our hospital, and, we can induce labor, because it's like a big health system. They have different, hospitals around the state, but this was like the big hospital. They have maternal fetal medicine there on site. So she called me right back, and she's like, pack pack a bag and be up here by 8 p.m. and we'll induce labor, and you don't need a C-section. I'm not sure why she said that, but so we did. We went up there and had the baby within 24 hours, and they were wonderful. And so at that time, it really, just having the experiences that I had 8 years apart, and realizing that there's really, like, the care, women's health in general is just crap, I feel like, in this day and age. And it's especially crap for like women who are suffering a loss, you know, regardless, miscarriage, stillbirth, it doesn't really matter. I just feel like the lack of compassion and care, and like really understanding of like what it does to the person, not just emotionally, physically, mentally, it affects, everything. If if you don't have good coping skills, your health goes down the drain. And it just, I feel like, especially in women's health, it's so important to have, you know, that extra education and understanding of what, perinatal loss does to your patients. So, and I know not everybody has bad experiences, and not everybody gave me a bad experience, but I just feel like it's too often, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I'm still over here like I cannot believe that first of all, you were treated as an inconvenience after going through something so horrible, not once, but twice. And
Yeah.
then to just be told, "Oh, sorry, they're on vacation. You gotta wait. You gotta just go home knowing this happened and
Hmm.
just wait 5 days." Like that's just
Yeah.
that makes me mad for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I know I'm not the only one who's gone through that. I'm sure there's countless other women who have had similar experiences, and it's infuriating.
So I know you had been through the first stillbirth. When you went through the second one, I know that you had been through it before. You had some idea of what to expect, but did you still find it different or like not? I know it was still hard,
Yeah.
but was it still, hopefully you understand what I'm trying to ask.
No, I do. No, I do. Yeah. No, it was different. Like it the first time, it was such like a shock. It was just like, I mean, it's just really hard to explain unless you've like experienced like that intense, like someone just pulled the whole world right out from under you feeling. Then the second time, I felt like I knew there was something wrong earlier on. So I had time to kind of process, and I had already kind of had ways of coping enough. Plus I had my three boys that kept me distracted. But it was different. I felt like I did feel more supported in a way, or at least I felt like I could advocate for myself better than when I did the first time around. I mean, I was, a little older and a little wiser and understood healthcare a little bit more. So, and I really took extra steps to, celebrate the, you know, my baby's life, and, appreciate the time that I was able to have with her. And I feel like that was comforting in a way, to have the knowledge ahead of time, and then being able to choose how I wanted to spend the time, you know?
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, it was still hard though, because I will say, because I had the two losses that were girls, and then I had the three healthy boys. And I don't know how many times people have said to me, "Oh, you need a girl. The boys need a girl in their life. Oh, don't you want to try and have a girl?" And it's like, if you only knew what I've gone through,
Right.
like,
Oh, yeah. Like I know they don't know, but it just like hurts your heart every time to hear it. Like, yes, I do have two girls. I wish they were here.
right. Yeah.
Is it common or is it rare to have two stillbirths because of Turner syndrome?
It's rare. So whenever it happened the first time, I was told that it's extremely unlikely that it would happen again. They said it typically doesn't happen within three generations of the same family. And so if it would happen, it would be like one in a million. And then it happened again. So I guess I'm just the oddball.
I know it
But
makes you like really question those statistics. Like when you're the 1% or the
yeah,
less than 1%, you're like, well, that means it's for sure going to happen to me now.
I know. I know. So when people try to throw statistics out to me now, I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Right? Like that's not comforting. Sorry. I know. It just, loss just changes
Yeah,
so many things about us.
it does. Yeah. I talk about my girls a lot with my kids, and they're always talking about their sisters in heaven, and they will often say, "Well, Mom, you don't just have 3 kids, you have 5 kids."
I love that. I love that they're so a part of the family, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Do y'all do anything special for like their birthdays or due dates or anything like that?
Well, our first daughter is buried in a cemetery, so we go and visit her grave site. And my my second daughter we had cremated. This might sound weird to some, but we will take her ashes with us to the cemetery, and that's just kind of, I don't know, kind of what we do to kind of bring the whole family together, I guess.
I love that though. It because like you said, it's the only way that your family feels complete when you're all together.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
I feel like there's a lot of things we do now as lost parents that we might have thought was weird before, and now it's just not weird at all. And when we see other people do it, we're like, you know what? Nope, I totally get it.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the other things we do down our lane a little bit, there's a small cemetery, and so my kids like to take walks down there, and on the way down, if it's like, spring and summer, we'll pick wildflowers on the way down there. And then once we get there, my kids like to pick out the headstones of like babies or children, and then they'll put a flower on their headstone.
Oh, I love that too.
Yeah. So that's something people would be like, oh, that's bizarre, but it
No,
works.
I think it's letting them know that they're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like you got much support from your family and friends during your losses?
Not not so much from the first one, but I felt like I had more support the second time around for sure. I feel like because I knew that there was something wrong early on, and so I was able to talk about it and openly, and to let people know that, don't be uncomfortable around me, like it's okay to talk about it. Where the first time, it was such a shock, and everyone kind of distanced themselves, I felt like, because they felt like, oh, she needs her time alone, like we don't want to bother her or talk about it in front of her, so we'll just, let her be. And that, I feel like, was really hurtful.
I feel like
um,
people don't understand that not saying anything is sometimes more hurtful than saying the wrong thing.
yeah, exactly. It's so true. And even now some people will like bring up my girls in conversation. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to bring that up." And I'm like, "No, please do." Like,
Yeah.
I want their memory to, just to stay alive. And I feel like it's harder too because no one really has memories of them, except, really, I mean, except for me, because I was carrying them and felt them moving and heard, listened to their heartbeat and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
just other people can still, acknowledge their existence and talk about them.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. It feels like we're the one that is constantly striving to have them remembered because, like you said, we have the memories with them. We're the ones who carried them and felt them move and all of that. And to other people, they were just, I mean, not saying they're not a person, but like they weren't, I guess, as real to them as they were to us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Were you able to get any keepsakes from either of your girls?
Yeah, I did. I have like handprints and footprints of both of them, and I have, like, there was a basket that they gave out of like different mementos. Like they put little outfits. Like there's different organizations that'll make little outfits and little hats for like stillborn babies. And so they had, like, they took pictures of them in their little outfits and hats. And so I have those pictures and the outfits that they wore in the pictures. And I had them both baptized too. And so I had like little seashells, like for that the holy water was in. So I have those.
I think that's great that you were able to get some things. I've heard too many stories of people who didn't get anything, and it all just kind of really depends on which hospital you end up at.
Yeah, exactly. No, I feel lucky and blessed in that regard that, that the hospitals that I was at had those things available. Because for me, like it was really important to me to be able to, hold my babies and be with them, as long as I possibly could before I had to leave the hospital. So it was nice that they accommodated that, and also letting my family come in and, hold them and be present for the, baptisms. And so I feel lucky in that respect.
And so then after your losses, you started a business that you named after them?
Yeah, it's called Emrose Wellness. My girls were Emmeline and Isla Rose.
Both beautiful names.
Thank you. So my mission is to help other women who've gone through perinatal loss and just help them, kind of process everything, whether it's miscarriage, stillbirth, or carrying a baby with a life limiting diagnosis. It can be really, really hard, especially if you don't have the support and you don't really have the support from your providers. And especially if they're as insensitive as what, one of the providers was that I had. And, really kind of help, process your emotions, still trying to put your own health first. And it's really, like I said, it affects your whole body, mental, emotional, spiritual, and so my goal was to kind of help, reconnect all those systems and, just kind of make the healing process a bit easier to navigate.
Yeah, I feel like when we go through loss, we get checked at, 6 weeks or whatever that appointment is. Like, all right, you're physically healed, so you're good. Go on with your life.
Right.
It's like, okay, but what about everything else?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just throw me back out there.
Right. I know. It does. I mean, just pregnancy alone and giving birth alone, it affects your body so much. And it's just twofold when when you have had a loss on top of it. So, I wish there was more. I wish I could do more, with education and like the healthcare community. Just, if you work in women's health, you need like, I mean, this might sound silly, but, you know, a course in compassion and sensitivity, for women who are going through loss.
They really do. I mean, with as many losses, that happen, I would say it's very unlikely that someone would go through their medical career without seeing at least one loss.
Right. I know. Yeah. And I feel like it's on top of that, I feel like nurses and healthcare providers are stretched thin as it is. And so they become burned out and, experience, what they call compassion fatigue. And I think having courses to kind of bring them back to center, and kind of, realign with their purpose of working in healthcare to begin with, to try to help, reverse some of that compassion fatigue and burnout.
Yeah, I imagine it's really hard to be a doctor or a nurse. So, I mean, I won't say I blame them 100%, but I do blame the one that was rude to you 100%.
Yeah, too.
That was just over the line, right?
Absolutely.
Did it change? I mean, since you've kind of seen it from both perspectives, from the medical side and, from the personal side, did it change how you practiced like as a nurse?
It did. Yeah, it definitely did. It really, it really taught me, like, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't take things personal. You never know what somebody's going through, what their backstory is. You know, it taught me to check myself at the door and, make sure I am fully present, for the patients and, ready to be as compassionate and sensitive as I need to be for them and really hold space for them. And also, even like the conversations that I have with my patients are different, like the typical icebreaker conversations, like, oh, do you have children? Have you ever had a baby? Like, how many children do you have? Or do you think you'll ever have a baby? Or are you going to have another baby? Like, things like that. I don't ask unless they bring it up. I don't even ask, because you don't know what their journey is like, if they have infertility problems or lost have lost babies, like I did. And I don't want to put anybody in an uncomfortable position that I have been put in with people asking me those sorts of questions. So it's really kind of put things in perspective too, as far as like the conversation, how the conversations go and stuff too. So
Yeah, that's something I think a lot of people don't think about unless they've been through it. Those questions that seem so innocent or that they're just used to asking, but can cause so
mhm.
much heartache for those who are going through it. Because then we're over here like, I don't know what to say. Do I say, in my case, I've lost three and I have three living. So do I say I have six? Do I say I have three? It's just one of those really hard questions to answer.
Mhm. Yeah, now I that's a question too that I struggled with for a long time, because I felt like a terrible person to pretend like my other babies don't exist. But then again, it's like, how uncomfortable do you want to make somebody if you
Right.
so
Well, especially if it's somebody that you may never see again. And
right.
sometimes we're also not in a good emotional space, like
Hmm.
ourselves, to go into all of that. So I think it's kind of a way of protecting ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely do still feel the guilt too.
Hmm. Yeah.
Were there any particular things or any resources or anything that helped you with your grief?
What really helped me was connecting with other moms that have had similar experiences, because I know, when you go through something like that, it can be extremely lonely. And especially if you don't have good support, nobody really wants to talk to you because they feel uncomfortable. So, really finding that connection with other lost moms was really helpful, just to make you feel supported and validated, and, like you're not alone and there are people out there who understand. So that was the biggest thing, I would say. And then I really kind of delved into this whole, like, holistic nursing journey, and I became a board certified holistic nurse and a board certified nurse coach. And I learned a lot about mindfulness and meditation. And that was really helpful too. And there's so many different holistic modalities that are helpful for healing. And I think it's I think it's important for other lost moms to know that those things are out there. And if you're going through something like that, just, Google holistic health, holistic healing. There's so many helpful things out there that your medical doctors aren't going to tell you about. So,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That's not something that you see a lot of doctors talking about. And it's stuff that I think, I mean, I'm of the opinion that medicine is good, but
Mm,
holistic stuff is good too, and that there's a place for them to work together.
exactly. Yes,
Like
exactly.
it doesn't have to be this one or the other that doctors
Mm,
sometimes seem to think it is.
exactly. Yeah, I know. And I know sometimes medication is helpful, like antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, but you really can live without them if you with through mindfulness and meditation and healthy eating, you know, using food as medicine. I'm a big believer in that.
I feel it's like things that we aren't taught at all. Like
Hmm.
about the importance of even just nutrition and the right foods. We don't
Yeah.
have like a required class in high school about that.
I know. Yeah. And even simple things like nature, you know, going out in nature and just kind of really experiencing all that, God has to offer, or the universe, or, whatever higher power you believe in. There's just so many healing properties about nature, too.
Yeah, I agree. We were in Georgia. We're from Texas. We had moved to Georgia and then we just like recently moved back to Texas. And Georgia had so much beautiful like nature. We were near the mountains and we were near a preserve and it was always so nice to be like out there in it. And then Texas is just not Georgia. Texas is flat and hot. So I really miss that about, being able to get out there.
Hmm. Yeah, I bet Georgia was beautiful. Wow.
I know it's kind of a tangent, but it's just been really hot lately.
Oh, I'm sure. I've never been to Texas, but I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's hot. It's cooler and rainy here where I'm at, but
I'm jealous. I'll take it. I'm sure you're probably tired of rain up
I
there.
yeah, I'm ready for the hot sunny weather.
Yeah, we can just like meet in the middle, trade a little bit of the weather, and then we'd both be perfect, right?
Yeah, there you go. That sounds good.
So, is there any advice that you would give to somebody who's going through loss?
Yeah, my advice would be, you don't have to go through it alone. There is support out there. You just have to find it. And I feel like it's a lot easier to find now with social media being so, prevalent and available. There's so many groups out there on social media now, for different types of loss. Just find that connection, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it, and advocate for yourself.
Yeah, I feel like those are all really important things, yet they're really hard for so many of us.
Yeah, I know. I know it is hard.
It shouldn't be so hard to advocate for yourself and speak up with doctors, but it is for some reason.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like for me it's a little bit easier because I worked in healthcare for a long time, but I know for other people who haven't, it can be a bit more intimidating. So I understand that too. But I do feel like there's, power in numbers. So just finding that group of other people who are going through it to kind of help empower you and, encourage you, I feel like is definitely helpful.
So, if people wanted to connect with you and find out more about what you do, where would they go for that?
They can find me on Instagram, either Caitlin Miller or Emrose Wellness. They can go to my website, which needs updated, but it's still active. It's emrosewellness.co. So, yeah, you can find me there. Send me a message, send me an email. I'm available for, support if you need it. So please, reach out.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think it's so important what you're doing, and you're truly an inspiration.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, for sharing your story with us. These awful experiences, like Caitlin mentioned, are far too common in the loss community. If you haven't already, you should go back and listen to the 2 episodes of this podcast that share about both the positive and negative experiences that lost families received from medical staff during the time of their loss. Some of the things they describe are really eye-opening. It's just so unfortunate that there isn't a uniform standard of care. Really, the medical treatment you receive is luck of the draw with what doctor or what hospital you end up at. And I'm grateful to know that there are so many in the loss community and in the medical community that are working to make the loss experience much more compassionate for families. All we can do is continue to share our experiences and keep pushing for the change we want to see. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please take a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.